Eggnog? Eggnog? You're telling me that Edgar Allan Poe's favorite thing to drink was eggnog? Yeah, I am not looking forward to this one. You'd think, considering he's like the Prince of Darkness, that he'd pick like Bloody Marys or something. That would honestly be pretty enjoyable. Let's just get this over with. To start off this Edgar Allan Poe episode of writing and drinking like famous alcoholic authors, I thought it'd be a good idea to play a drinking game to his poem, The Raven. But before I do that, I have my mom's makeup bag, and I thought it'd be pretty fun to kind of do my makeup all like Edgar Allan Poe. I never wear makeup though, so I don't really know what I'm doing here. Is this what I'm looking for? Wouldn't want to make myself look stupid. Are they like brushes or something? What's this? Oh. I'm trying to be real careful here because I'm not trying to ruin any of my mom's stuff.
I didn't really ask permission to use the makeup because in order to do that I'd have to explain what I was using it for, and my parents don't really know about this channel. They know the channel exists, but they don't really know what I do, and I don't really know if they'd approve to me drinking to Edgar Allan Poe. I mean, I am 23, I just don't want to explain why I'm drinking like famous alcoholic authors at 1 a.m. So instead I planned this perfect heist where I would borrow the makeup and then return it before my mom ever noticed. The only problem is I fell asleep making this video, and by the time I woke up she had already noticed it was missing, so I had to kind of explain that I used it for a video, and now they're gonna probably watch this video to understand why I needed makeup. So if you're watching this, Mom and Dad, hi, I hope you're proud of me. Anyway, where was I? Oh right, making myself look like Edgar Allan Poe.
I just want to make my eyes all black and sunken. Like, how do I do that? Let me know in the comments what I'm doing wrong here. Let me go with this. Oh, that's actually, not bad. Close enough. Honestly, it's not a lot worse. This is mascara here, but I honestly think this is pretty perfect. I feel like he does his hair straight back. I'm honestly a little mad at myself. I had some really good facial hair growing the other day, but I kind of just shaved it all off. That's what I typically do before a video. And I was like, oh, I should have kept the mustache for Edgar Allan Poe. I would try to make myself one with the makeup, but I'm not really good with the makeup, and I don't really want to make myself look like a certain German failed painter, if you know what I mean. That's enough talk, though. Let's drink to the Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Feel free to join in with me, if you're legally allowed to drink. So the rules to this drinking game are pretty simple. I will take a drink if the Raven is mentioned, if a line ends rhyming with the word door, if an emotion is mentioned, a new emotion. If I mess up reading, that's going to cause a lot of problems. If I get confused, also might cause a lot of problems. And then take a drink if heaven or hell is mentioned. I've actually never read The Raven, so I'm pretty excited for this. Most of what I know about Edgar Allan Poe comes from his short stories, which I absolutely love. So as a big fan of Edgar Allan Poe, I guess it's kind of crazy that I've never read The Raven, but I'm more of a short story guy. But who knows, reading Edgar Allan Poe's short stories, such as The Telltale Heart, really got me into writing short stories, so maybe reading The Raven will get me into writing poetry. I'll tell you what I definitely won't be getting into in this video, and that's drinking eggnog. I bought this stuff in college once, and I thought it was completely disgusting. Here goes nothing. Bubbling. Oh, it's thick. Oh, God. So doing my research on Edgar Allan Poe, it was a little difficult to know for sure that his favorite drink was eggnog. I mean, after the Hemingway video where I drank mojitos, where it turned out his favorite drink is daiquiris, I have been trying to do this more carefully to make sure I'm actually drinking the right drink. What I do know for sure, though, is that Edgar Allan Poe is a brandy man, and there is brandy in this. There is a lot of evidence, though, that Edgar Allan Poe was an eggnog man. There's a recipe out there that's apparently his eggnog recipe. I was going to actually make that, but I felt like if I actually made the eggnog and I saw what got in the eggnog, I don't think I would be able to drink it. I personally like drinks that are light in my stomach. This is the exact opposite of what I want to drink. That being said, if you really do want to see me make Edgar Allan Poe's eggnog recipe, let me know in the comments and I will see what I can do. Depending on how this goes, I am not making a promise on that one. Shall we begin? What are the rules again? I forgot the rules already. Let me taste this, actually. I've been complaining this whole time. Let's see how bad it is. Okay, not horrible. The aftertaste is pretty bad. Just that small taste, though, is just not going down very well. The flavor itself actually isn't that bad. It's actually kind of good. It's just really heavy, and it's just like the afterburn is just not what I'm looking for. Let's hope I don't mess up reading, because I do not want to drink a lot of that. The game is going to end either if I finish this entire bottle or if I finish reading the poem. So, door, raven, emotion, mess up, confuse, heaven or hell. Keep me accountable in the comments. If I mess up, let me know. I'll do makeup sips in the next video or something. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over a many quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. That rhymes with door. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as if one gently ramping. Oh. As of someone gently rapping. Why am I getting stuck here? As of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. Oh, the aftertaste is accumulating. Ugh. Ew. How did he like this? "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this, and nothing more. God damn it. Yeah, we're not making it through this full poem. Dissonantly. Dissonantly? I don't know that word. Does that mean I'm also confused? I hope that's like a hard word. I'm gonna seem like an idiot. Dissonantly, I remember that in the black. Oh my god. The alcohol definitely isn't helping either. I know I just started drinking, but I do pregame these. Distantly, I remember it was in the bleak December. At each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow. Faintly I had sound. Oh god. Eagerly I wished the morrow. Faintly I had sought to borrow. From the books. You know what? I have the 2 pages and it's like the words are blurring. I'll still drink to that one, but that's kind of what I think is happening here. I'm having trouble seeing the words. From the books surcease. From the books surcease of sorrow. Sorrow from the lost Lenore. For the rare and radiant maiden whose angels name Lenore. Alright, I messed up. Also, sorrow. Sorrow's an emotion. Nameless here forevermore. And the silken, red, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain. Thrill me, fill me with fantastic terrors never felt before. So, in the original game, which I'm regretting now, it says to only drink for door, but I thought, like, oh, how many times could the word door be in the poem? I didn't realize how long it was, so I made it to anything that rhymes with door. So starting now, I'm only going to be doing it for door because I can't be doing it for every word that rhymes with door. So I'll drink for door and I'll drink for nevermore, and that's it. Because otherwise, I'm already halfway done with the cup. I can't remember the name of the website that I got the game, by the way, but I will link in the bio because I don't want to steal it or anything. I found it on Pinterest, so thank you to whoever made that. It helped inspire this video. I've drank like half this cup, and I'm on line 13 of 108. And the silken, sad, uncertain, rustling each purple curtain. Thrill me, fill me with fantastic terrors. Never. I messed up there. I'm not drinking for sad though, because sad and sorrow are the same emotion. So I'll give you terror though. I'll give you terrors. I'll do 2 drinks here. God. It feels so heavy in my stomach. Where was I? So that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood, repeating, "'Tis some visitor, entreating entrance at my chamber door." Some late visitor, entreating entrance at my chamber door. Same line twice. This it is, and nothing more. Presently I have this habit of just like stopping when like a sentence isn't perfect while I'm recording. It's something I'm really working on when I'm making these videos, and it's not helping me when I'm trying to read this poem out without making mistakes. Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating, then no longer. "Sir," I said, "or madam, truly, your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door. That I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened the wide door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into that darkness, peering long I stood, there wondering, fearing, no emotion." Oh, hold on. Fearing and terror. Are fearing and terror the same emotion? No, it's different, right? I feel like you can use fear and terror interchange. I already drank, it doesn't matter. Doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token. And the only word there spoken was whispered word, Lenore. Then I whispered, an echo murmured back the word, Lenore. Merely this, and nothing more. Back in the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard a tapping, somewhat louder than before. Surely, I said, surely that's something my winter lattice. Latest? I do not have the best vocabulary, and it's kind of embarrassing as an author. It's actually something I'm a little self-conscious about as a writer, considering that, obviously, like, I'm trying to write books. I should know more words, but I really struggle with vocabulary. Drank twice there, once for being confused about the word, and once about messing up the word. Oh boy. It's so gross. We'll see if I finish the poem before I finish the bottle. Where was I? Oh, lattice. I'm gonna look up all the words I don't know like after. I'm not gonna do it in the middle of the video. Mainly because I would look it up on my phone and I'm using my phone to record this. And this is merely let me Alright. This is getting harder. Let me Raven. Raven was mentioned. Of the saintly days of Yod. Do I drink for saintly? Is that like a heavenly reference? I'll allow it. Ugh. As I drink more of this, I'm getting less like the sweet flavor and just more of like the terrible aftertaste. As I'll get into when I talk about his life, Edgar Allan Poe was a strange man in a lot of ways, but this drink choice is one of the strangest things about him. Actually, I take it back. It's really not. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love his work. He was a strange dude. Made he. Oh my god. My chamber door. Perched upon a burst of palace. Palace? Is that like. Perched on. Door. Perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird, beguiling in my sad fancy. Oh my god. Part of this is the alcohol, but part of this is just the fact that I cannot read out loud for my life. Back in grade school, when teachers were like calling us to like read certain sections, I would always be like terrified about being chosen. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling. Smiling. I think this is like the first time he's mentioned happiness. Ghastly grim, ancient. That wasn't a mess up. I just saw the word raven, so I just kind of like froze up. Not gonna count that one. Just raven. Oh, God. Tell me what the... Thy. I hate the word, like, thy. Like, I just hate the way that a lot of, like, writing from, like, 200 years ago reads. And to be fair, Edgar Allan Poe, his short stories at least, they read pretty modern. Like, especially considering how long ago it was. Like, I love his short stories. I'm actually really enjoying this poem so far, even though it's making me drink eggnog. Like, I am enjoying the poem, but there's just some of the wording is just, like, too old for me. I don't know. It's just my personal take. I'm biased. I still am liking the poem a lot, though, so far. I'm not knocking it. Just, like, the thy kind of triggered my little rant there. Where was it? Tell me why thy Lord's name is on the night Plutonian. Wasn't even close. Tell me why the... It's the same line. Tell me what thy lordly name is on... What? Oh no, I got it right. Finish the line. Finish the line. Sure. Oh my god. I lost it. Tell me what... Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. So I'm drinking for nevermore and I'm drinking for raven. It is not looking good for me finishing the poem before I finish the bottle here. Which is very unfortunate. This is also like 15% alcohol, so when I actually get into talking about Edgar Allan Poe's life, I'm gonna be an absolute mess. I feel like I've got a baby in my stomach. It's just like, ugh. No good. No offense, Evan Williams, this has been the least enjoyable video of this series so far. probably going to be the least enjoyable video in this series for a long time. Speaking of which, let me know what author I should do next. I do have a list of authors I want to cover, but I'd love to know what you want to see. But the Raven, that one, sitting lonely on the placid burst, spoke only. Are we going to count lonely as a feeling? I kind of want to count it. I feel like lonely is like a different feeling than sad. It's... I feel like most people would say no. I'm gonna allow it. That one word. I lost the line I was reading. Nothing farther. Farther. I heard that come out of my mouth, and I was like, gonna try to keep on going. But I just started to crack up. I had to. We'll see how coherent it will be. I will be talking about Edgar Allan Poe's life after I finish reading this. I'm sorry. Farther. Nothing farther than he uttered. Not a feather than he fluttered. Till I scarcely more than muttered. Other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, nevermore. That's the longest I have gone in this entire 60 lines without messing up or like drinking. Like, I'm honestly glad I got through the first page. Drink for nevermore. Let's go. Okay, so a partly split aptly. That's like part of the problem too when I'm reading out loud. I kind of guess what's gonna come next, and it's just not good. I mean, it's not the biggest deal in the world. It's not convenient, especially considering I have a YouTube channel. So like, you know, like when I'm reading stuff, like it's really hard for me to like read articles when I like expose NaNoWriMo or like some fraudulent company. Like those videos are really hard for me because like I'm just not good at reading out loud. Not to get off track, but similar to the way I write, I'm better when I'm just freestyling. Like that's just like when I'm the best. Like when I'm trying to stick to a script or do something, it's just like so. I'm just not good at it. Back to the Raven. Also, if you notice I'm procrastinating here and there, it's because I'm a little teensy bit drunk. Just a little bit. A little bit. Small bit. Crush my head. In general, even when I'm sober, I tend to be like completely all over the place, but when I'm drinking a little bit, I really just, I lose the plot. I didn't start this page, right? I threw the other one. I don't think I started this. Startled at the stillness, broken by reply, Oh, I did. And I messed up on aptly. And I just messed up again on aptly. Cheers. Unmercifully. Oh, me. Oh. Editor Pat, bleep that out. Till the Durges? I have no idea. I've never seen that word before. Am I dumb? I feel like I'm dumb. Of nevermore. I have to say, this is a pretty good poem. I'm going to have to read it tomorrow when I'm sober because right now, not computing. Brain is not computing at all. But the Raven, still beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, straight I wheeled cushioned seat in front of my bird, and burst and door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking. Fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore, meant in croaking, nevermore. I know I said door before. I just wanted to see how long I can go without messing up because this is the last sip. I finished the entire bottle before I finished the poem, so... Oh well. I do kind of want to say like the final lines just because they're famous, so... Shall be lifted, nevermore. But yeah, I'm definitely going to read this tomorrow while I get over my hangover, but I think it's time to go over the life of Edgar Allan Poe. And then after I go over his life, I'll try to write like him. This is one of the drunkest I've gotten in one of these videos so far. It's going to make this part really interesting because I also normally do this part first, but, you know, try to change things up. You know, watch time's been a little... So, try to change some things. Speaking of, really quickly, before I get into the life of Edgar Allan Poe, if there's ever anything you want to see me improve in my videos, I love constructive criticism. I will take it in, and I will try to make my videos better for you, because that's why I make them. Now, let's get into the life of Edgar Allan Poe. This is a video that I was really looking forward to making because Edgar Allan Poe is honestly one of the authors that really inspired me to become an author. If you've watched some of my other videos, you already know this, and if you don't, hi, my name is Patrick Nella, nice to meet you. I'm a sci-fi author. I love to write short stories. And in school, Edgar Allan Poe was the first author to open my eyes to what you can do with short stories. He was actually one of the first authors who taught me that reading wasn't boring, because so many of the books I read and short stories I read early on in school were just like so boring. I couldn't finish them, I couldn't get into them. I didn't really care. But then I found Edgar Allan Poe, The Telltale Heart, and I was just hooked on short stories. He truly did leave such an insane mark on the literary world, which is why it's so upset that his life really sucked. That being said, he is one of the most famous authors ever, and he has a football team named after him, the Ravens. So, it could have been a lot worse. Actually, I take that back, because most of that happened after he died, but we'll get into it. I would say that Edgar Allan Poe lived out the stereotypical alcoholic, tragic author life, but to be honest, he probably created it, at least in some sense helped inspire it. When you think of authors who struggled and authors who also had drinking problems, Edgar Allan Poe is really one of the first ones you think of. He was born on January 19th, 1809 to two actors, so you would think he was off to a good start, but not so much. His father left right away, and by the time he was 3, his mother died of tuberculosis. Yeah, slightly off topic, this was a terrible time period to live in. Absolutely terrible. Like, sometimes I see myself falling into the trap, like, oh, maybe if I was born earlier, I would be able to make a bigger impact on, like, writing or something like this. I'm like, no. If I was born earlier, I would have probably been dead. My mom hates when I say this, but I would have lived to the ripe old age of 9 years old, and then that first time I got pneumonia, that would have been it. Here in the 21st century, I missed a month of school, that's about it. Getting back on track, reiterating what I was talking about before, it's kind of amazing to me how Edgar Allan Poe lived in the 1800s, because his writing, for the most part, was so modern, especially in his short stories. As I've mentioned before, I do get confused a lot when I read, like, older works, but I've never had a problem with Edgar Allan Poe's short stories. Anyway, after his mother's death, he was taken in by a wealthy family in Virginia, but he was never officially adopted. Despite the fact that the family was rich and Edgar Allan Poe excelled in school, his father did not give him enough money to complete university. So basically, he went to University of Virginia, his father gave him some money to kind of get started, but not enough to pay all his tuition. As a result of this, Edgar Allan Poe resorted to gambling to try to make money for his school, which is a pretty terrible strategy, to be honest. Yeah, during his time in school, he was literally burning his furniture to stay warm. And yeah, not for nothing, considering all this and the fact that he still got good grades, the fact that his father or foster father didn't step in and give him more money when they had the money, it's just heartbreaking. With all his struggles, he didn't finish college. In 1827, he enlisted into the army with the fake name of Edgar A. Perry, which, first of all, is an absolutely terrible name. Come on, you're an author and you couldn't think of a better fake name? Also, I didn't really question this when I took my notes, but now that I think of it, I don't really understand why he needed a fake name to enlist in the army. Obviously, though, he joined because he was desperate for money. Around this time, he also published his first book, Tamburlaine and Other Poems, in an attempt to try to make more money. Didn't really work that well. Actually, to be honest, saying it didn't really work that well is honestly an understatement. It worked about as poorly as you could have possibly imagined. His first book went so poorly, there are only 12 original copies in existence. Ironically now, one of them actually sold for over $600,000 in 2009. That being said, considering now that only 12 exist and at the time there are only 15 printed, this book went pretty horribly. Edgar Allan Poe then tried to go to West Point and that didn't really work out, and that's when he committed to becoming an author. It's when he left West Point that he also started writing prose in addition to just poetry. And this is more the Edgar Allan Poe that I'm familiar with. In 1836, he married his cousin Virginia Clem while staying with his aunt. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know what times were like back then, but the idea of having a fallout fight with, like, my father, like, leaving to live with my aunt, and then, like, instantly marrying my cousin is the most absurd thing imaginable. Like, what? Yeah, marrying cousins is not so good, but to make it worse, Virginia was 13 years old. Let's just move on. That's honestly all I can say, let's just move on. Like I said before when I was complaining about the eggnog, Edgar Allan Poe is a weird dude. Don't get me wrong, he was an incredible writer and one of my biggest inspirations. I'm so glad to be able to make this video and talk about him, but he was a weird dude. I mean, come on, anyone whose favorite drink is eggnog's got some things going on in there. Anyway, after he married Virginia, he had a job as a literary critic, which is honestly a really good way to hone your craft and, like, learn more about writing while also making some money. That being said, Edgar and Virginia's financial life was pretty brutal. And yeah, that honestly makes a lot of sense. I can't really see what skills Virginia was bringing to the workforce at age 13 that would help her make money, so Edgar was pretty much on his own. I was gonna make the comment that like 13-year-olds were probably more like mature back then in the sense of just like, like the world was more serious, but I feel like that's gonna be taken the wrong way. I didn't mean that in the way like, oh, it's cool to marry your 13-year-old cousin. More like she was probably more important. Let's just move on. Next segment. In 1945, he published The Raven, which I just read, and it absolutely blew up. At this point, Edgar Allan Poe had earned a decent amount of money here and there with short stories and poems, but with The Raven, he became famous overnight. The Raven was published in almost every single newspaper in 1945. Edgar Allan Poe was one of the most famous authors ever, especially considering like at the time. Like everybody knew who he was. However, he did not make much money from this. And yeah, just thinking about that honestly sucks. The fact that he was so well known, he was still just struggling to survive is just like heartbreaking. Throughout his lifetime, a lot of Edgar Allan Poe's work did well, but he just wasn't able to make money off of it. For The Fall of the House of Usher, he made $24, which back then was about like $1,000, but still, The Fall of the House of Usher is like one of the best short stories ever written. I could be wrong, but I honestly feel like one of the biggest problems with Edgar Allan Poe's work was it was so ahead of its time that he was too ahead of the time to monetize it. Despite his struggles to monetize his own work, in 1847, things were still looking up to Edgar Allan Poe. He was getting more attention in the literary world than ever before. Then at age 26, Virginia died of tuberculosis. Obviously, Edgar Allan Poe was absolutely devastated that his wife passed away. When you really look at the life story of Edgar Allan Poe, it truly feels like he could not have anything good in his life. Every single time something good came, something bad would just follow. It's like a dark cloud just followed this man throughout his entire life. After Virginia died, a lot of literary experts assumed that Edgar Allan Poe would die soon after. Unfortunately, they would be right. After Virginia died, Edgar did rekindle a teenage love with Sarah Elmira. I'm kind of telling this story out of order, but basically what happened was back in college, Edgar was in love with Sarah and he would send her love letters. And what would happen was her family did not want her to have anything to do with Edgar Allan Poe, so they would get rid of the letters. So she never really knew what was going on. She thought like Edgar had just went to college and forgotten about her. Then by the time that Edgar Allan Poe came home, she was already engaged, so it was over. That being said, due to the fact that it absolutely sucked to live in the 1800s, by the time that Virginia died, she was also a widow, so they kind of reconnected. The main reason I honestly bring her up is she kind of plays a role in some of the theories on Edgar Allan Poe's death. As interesting as Edgar Allan Poe's life was, it was honestly overshadowed by the mystery of his death. To this day, nobody knows how Edgar Allan Poe actually died. Edgar Allan Poe left town for a business trip for his magazine where he attempted to finally make money on his popularity. 6 days later, he was found semi-conscious and in ragged clothes outside a tavern in Baltimore. At first, he was taken to a hospital, with doctors assuming he was just drunk, but he didn't recover. While he was basically incoherent, he was mumbling phrases that didn't really make sense, but one thing that people did hear was he was mumbling the name Reynolds. That being said, for the research that I did, there's really no telling who this Reynolds was. On October 7th at age 40, he died of contusion to the brain. That being said, back then, doctors also used that phrase when people died due to alcohol-related reasons as like a term of like respect to the family. So case solved, right? Not so much. Edgar Allan Poe's death has become a famous cold case, mostly because of how famous he was. Some do say that he simply died to alcoholism. Apparently, Edgar Allan Poe's body reacted very poorly to alcohol. At some point, he actually quit drinking and supported the temperance movement because of that. That being said, he could have just fallen off the wagon. It happens. Where it gets really interesting though is that this sensitivity to alcoholism apparently ran in his family and also is apparently attributed to brain tumors. Supporting that theory, even though Edgar Allan Poe was famous, he was buried in an unmarked grave, and eventually they made a statue of him. They decided to move his body, and when they picked up his coffin, of course, it collapsed into garbage because that's just how Edgar Allan Poe's life went. Like, even after death, like, nothing can go right for him. Like, you take out his coffin to put it into a better place, and of course, it's just turned to dust. But anyway, the reason I bring this up is when his coffin collapsed to pieces, his remains were scattered, and people noticed there was a mass inside his skull, which people thought was his brain, but brains don't turn into little circular masses. What it could have been, however, was a calcified tumor. Another theory was he had rabies, which was really common at the time. Some suggest that his ragged clothes were a sign of cooping, which was like a really popular form of voter fraud back at the time. This was really popular in Baltimore back in the day. Basically what they would do is they would like kidnap somebody and then force them to vote multiple times, and each time they would change their outfit like a disguise. Saying this out loud, it sounds completely ridiculous, but apparently this was something they did. Also, if you were cooping, it sounds kind of dumb to use a famous author over and over again, but I feel like criminals didn't really recognize famous authors back in the day. I just feel like criminals in the 1800s were not reading The Raven. There are also some theories that foul play could have been involved. One of the theories is that the brothers of Sarah Elmira, who clearly did not like Poe, I mean, the father hated him, like this family did not want Edgar Allan Poe to marry this girl. Maybe they attacked him or even forced him to drink knowing that he was sensitive to alcohol. There was an incident that caused him to take on temperance where a doctor basically said if he had another drinking episode, he probably wouldn't survive. So maybe they forced him, or maybe he just fell off the wagon. Personally, I find the cooping theory really interesting because he was found in clothes that were different than clothes that he would typically wear. To be honest, we'll never truly know what happened to Edgar Allan Poe. His death is as mysterious as his writing. And while it is depressing to say, it's also kind of poetic. That being said, when he died, he had no way of knowing how popular he would become. Today, Edgar Allan Poe is known as the father of short stories. He truly brought short stories to the forefront of modern literary attention. He's also considered to be the inventor of the detective genre. Obviously, he changed Gothic literature forever, and he's known as the forefather of sci-fi. I think it's honestly safe to say that I might not be a writer, and I definitely wouldn't be writing the book I currently am writing if it wasn't for Edgar Allan Poe. My sci-fi series of short stories truly would not exist without him. In school, he genuinely was one of the first writers whose work I actually enjoyed, and he honestly put me on the track of becoming a writer. Edgar Allan Poe was a huge influence on me, so I'm just happy to be able to make this video to try to help keep his legacy alive. He doesn't need help, that's how good his legacy is, but I thought I'd do my part. Now that I've drank like Edgar Allan Poe, and I've read his writing, and I've talked about his life, it's time for me to try to write like Edgar Allan Poe. I'm like missing the button here. So when it comes to his actual writing habits, Edgar Allan Poe was a perfectionist. Oh my god, this is like terrible. I thought it like looked good from a distance, but this is green. I look like the Joker without the clown makeup. Oh my god. Yikes. If you're one of my friends and you're watching this, please don't screenshot this. But yeah, Edgar Allan Poe was a perfectionist, and one of the things he truly believed was that every single word in a short story should serve a purpose, which honestly is actually the best short story writing advice I ever received. Edgar Allan Poe also liked to write late at night when he was all alone, especially when he had a lot of inspiration. So basically, he was like all of us. At least me. I feel like I have a habit of assuming that all my writing habits are habits that everyone shares, but personally, I like to write late at night when I'm alone, when I actually feel inspired. Personally, I have weeks where I write 5,000 words a day. I also have weeks where I barely write 100 words in the entire week. It honestly is pretty nice to know that Edgar Allan Poe was an inspiration night gremlin like myself. Honestly, me and Edgar Allan Poe actually share the same writing habits, except I'm not really obsessed with death, and like really obsessed with death when I write. But other than that, it's kind of similar. Because of that, since I'm not really feeling inspired right now, I don't have to try out his writing habits. I'm just kidding, let's get writing. As you can tell, that writing session did not go that well. Still, I would share what I wrote because that's typically how I end these videos, but because I actually wrote something for my book Operation Arc, I can't really share it. The story I wrote, or at least tried to start writing, is based on The Telltale Heart because I thought it'd be a really good idea to write a story that really resembles The Telltale Heart, since that's the story that inspired me to get into writing in the first place. All I'm going to say right now is about a man losing his mind while locked in his unit in a space station. Out of the 3 authors I covered in this series so far, I'd definitely say that Edgar Allan Poe's writing habits are the easiest to copy, but they're also the least effective. In general, waiting till you have motivation is not the best strategy to writing any type of work. That being said, Edgar Allan Poe is an absolute genius, so maybe I'm wrong. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Let me know what author you think I should cover next. I'm gonna go watch this off and get some sleep.